Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. And yeah, thank you so much for those who are going to watch this video. Okay, thank you. It's not gonna today I think I will have two discussions today. Yeah, I will have two discussions today. The first discussion will be about a little bit of everything. I will have a discussion where I talk about what it means, how it is to live in dictatorship. Okay, what it means to live in dictatorship. This is a video for people out there, especially for the American people a lot, because I see many things on social media. I see things on YouTube, and I think video of what happened in the classrooms, where they are in classrooms and they have teachers, educators who are teaching them, who are telling them that they are under that the person in power in the White House is a dictator, and that they are talking about the rise of fascism in America and things like that. That kind of, it's very sad, because when it comes from educators, it comes from people who are supposed to have a better understanding of some topic like that, some things like that. It can be, it's very sad that these people have shown. I mean, for me, it's a type of ignorance or propaganda, a fear, because describing someone being a dictator in your country is kind of very special. That it comes from, and people like that are in school and teaching them to young in community college and so on, I mean, talking to them that the right, the conservative are extremely dangerous, they are fascists and so on. But it will be interesting also to define what fascism is, okay? Because when we were in high school, and I think many of us, we study fascism, we study Nazism, we study also Stalinism. I don't know, sorry, because I don't speak English, and I might be wrong in some of the things I will be saying. I apologize ahead of time, because that's some memories and things that I remember, okay, things that I remember. But before going to this discussion, I want to share with you a story. It was a movie. It was that I watched at the time, a long time ago, and it was a real story, inspired by a real story of a character. I don't know who was the name of this guy, but I think it was an Olympic swimmer. He was from a country of a Soviet Union, and at the time, there were two blocks, the block of the Soviet Union on the side, and the other side of the West, and I would say the West. Okay, like I say, I don't know everything, but I try to, I want to explain something. I want to show you how the people who are telling on the news, on social media, on YouTube, everywhere, that they are living under a dictatorship is, for me, kind of disrespectful. Not only ignorant, but disrespectful for the people who have been through that situation, who live in countries like that. I live in dictatorship. So why they talk like that to students? When people talk like that, they have a dictator, like they say, I think they don't know what a dictator is. I think they don't know what a dictatorship is, okay? So in the movie, the guy was a swimmer. He was excellent swimmer. The people at the time in the Soviet Union were very excellent in what they were doing. Really, they were performing very, brilliantly, excellent in what they were doing at the time. And they were living, I don't know which country it was, I don't know, but the guy had enough of the regime, the political regime, the system he was living in. No right, to speak of your mind, free speech, like we say. No right of, what you had, almost like it didn't belong to you, and so on, It was this situation of pressure and of fear and control. No human was created to live under an oppression, okay? Even in the Bible, when God created the human, he made him to dominate what he has, to cultivate what he has. So the power of someone coming to oppress is definitely something that cannot be acceptable. So the guy, he was training every day on the coast, on the sea. No, seriously, on the sea. He was training with his friend. He was training, practicing, training, because he was already good. But what he wanted to achieve is to leave the limit where they were living to go on the other side. And I think on the other side was the British, the military of the sea, okay? The army of the sea. I think it's the Navy, I don't know the name for the British. And on the side where they were, it was the Soviet Union. So they had Coast Guard. Yeah, the word was Coast Guard. They were protecting, they were watching. Every people would be trying to escape. They will catch them, and they will put them where. Because people don't talk a lot about, things like the Gulag. I don't know if you heard about the Gulag when you study most of this movement. Also, we learned a little bit about the Gulag. But later on, when I watched a lot of documentary again, and that's when I saw that people barely talk about the number of people who died in the Gulag during the time of Stalin, I think. Why people were sent to the Gulag? Because of free expression, because they couldn't do what they wanted to do. They were forced to go to the Gulag. If you try to challenge the power, at the time you were sent to the Gulag. And I think if people died there was method of torture or method of just let you are living there, and that was it, okay? And again, like I say, I don't know everything, but I try to remember what I read and what I watch, okay? What I watch, because I like history. So people don't talk a lot about the people who died in the Gulag, the number of people who died in the Gulag. People talk about Holocaust, people talk about this and that, but people don't really talk about the number of people who died in the Gulag. And I remember we didn't know much, but sometimes we would just say, oh, I will send you to the Gulag. We were talking like that in classroom, but we didn't understand because we were ignorant. What happened is the guy, he was training every time with his friends. His friend was sitting in the kind of little boat, you say, and they were looking him going to the sea, swimming. And you see that how difficult it is to swim in the sea, okay? And especially when you are under the pressure that if I'm caught, is what's going to happen to me. So one day he was ready. He said that his friend, he was ready to go by night. He went by night, and they say that he had to go by night because he had to escape and to hide, under the water, something like that. And they were Coast Guard at a certain level of the sea, high sea. His friend told him, are you sure you want to do that? He said, I don't see any difference to be living where we are or dying in the sea. It's just to show you how desperate some people were at the time in some dictatorial system, okay? Authoritarian, I will say like that. And what happened? His friend just closed, they told him good luck. They put him in the water. I mean, they went in the middle of the water somewhere, and he jumped. In the movie, he starts swimming in the dark water with the sea current, when the sea is very strong, the wind by night, and cold, really cold. He was swimming, and at some level, he saw the Coast Guard. The light was there, and they were watching around. A little bit like North Korea, the system that they were looking around. I don't know how he did it, but it just shows how human strength, human mind, when the human put his mind in something, it can do anything. I don't know how he did it. He went inside, I think, and then he started swimming. And at some point, he escaped the light, the big light they were putting, the spot. I don't know how to call it. You call it. He escaped that, and then he crossed and he went on the other side, and not so far were the British Coast Guard, something like that. And they saw him because they knew at the time people were escaping from that side of the continent, that side of the world. So they were keeping them, they were saving them, and they saved him. They put in the ship, and they took him to, I don't know which country, and he renounced his citizenship, and he took the British citizenship. Was gone. It was gone. And it just to show you that when you are in a very, when you are in a political regime, there is a lot of despair, there is a lot of lack of hope, and there is no life in this system. When people say that they live under a dictator, I hope they take in consideration everything that they say. Because if they are living under a dictatorship, like they say in America, they live in dictatorship, seriously, for me, it's disrespectful for people who went through authoritarian regime. People left places not because they were happy, because they want to leave the place. You will see that most of the time, and I don't necessarily agree with illegal immigration. I say that many times, but I understand the causes. And one of the causes of illegal immigration is authoritarian system, dictatorship. In America, I don't know if they really have dictatorship at the time we are talking now. I don't know really if the president, Donald Trump, is a dictator. They talk about being, I see some comments, they say they live in fear. They live in fear. But if you live in fear, do like most of the people in the world who have been living in fear in their country. What they do, they pack the stuff and they leave. What they did is they pack, and sometimes they don't even pack, they just leave. They just leave, okay? I'm not happy. I've left my country, and I love my country very much. But what happened when you live in system that doesn't give you some opportunity, doesn't treat you the way you should be treated. In dictatorship, people who live in dictatorship, they don't have a life, okay? You can have a life, people work, it's a type of life you can say, but it's not really life. People live in poverty on purpose. There is a system of poverty that is imposed to you on purpose. You work, but what you have in some countries is not really for you. It is a system, okay? I remember when I was young, because I usually have, I was in a magazine for young people, for teenagers. That magazine, they have different sections. We will learn history, we learn politics, a little bit, we learn geography, sports, a little bit of entertainment, just to educate ourselves. And I remember every 2 months, we had the people of the magazine would go to a country to talk to young people of these countries. Like, for example, the year before, they were the young of Paris, the young of Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, the youth of Abidjan, the youth of Paris, the youth of Berlin, or the youth of Germany, the youth of Berlin. Yeah, they went to Berlin. The youth of different country, the youth of Hong Kong. Yeah, Hong Kong at the time when Hong Kong was the independent country. I mean, a country on their own. And then they went to La Havana. Those who know, La Havana is the capital city of Cuba. On the cover, and I never forgot that, they had young people sitting on the wall, like on the old fort. The fort a fort where on the sea, there are forts, it was an old fort. And you see the city of Cuba, the La Havana was kind of really poor, okay? You see old cars. I mean, you can see that there hasn't been a lot of change in this. There hasn't been a lot of change in these cities. And the youth of La Havana, when I read the article, I mean, this is what I read. They were hopeless about the future. And most of them were talking about those who jump in the sea. When I say jump in the sea, understand that it's a way to explain that people were taking any mean, cheap material, cheap sea, okay? And even they were even using some tires, cars, tire, they would take it and to go in the sea, swim to go to America. And I think at the time they were landing to, I think, Florida, okay? And I remember that I was a teenager. That was the first time I heard about the situation, a little bit, not very much, of Cuba. I mean, of the youth of Havana. So when you look, I talked to you about the guy, a real story, this Olympic swimmer who left his country swimming. He was desperate because there was no hope in the country where he was living in. I talk about La Havana in Cuba. When I talk about the youth, the same situation happened. They were escaping, they were leaving. This is what happened when people live in dictatorial system, authoritarian. In Africa, it's very often. Now I'm talking about modern escape, because today you can go. They use any type of ship, and sometimes some of them swim in the sea. Okay, they are in the sea sometimes. And where are they going from Africa? They are going to the West. Countries in Europe, France, Italy, Germany, all these countries, the UK, they go there as illegals. What does that mean? It means that in their countries, they are hopeless. This is what happens when you live in dictatorship. People are living, they are going. There's no happiness. Part 2, I keep in part 2 because I don't want to get cut. Okay, in part 2, I will give you more explanation. I will give you more example. Now, in more personal example, I will say that thing that I've seen and in my own environment, what I saw about dictatorship. Okay, what it means. I will tell you what it means to grow up, to live in dictatorship.